What was once commonplace 20-30 years ago has now evolved into a luxury. Honestly, things like fixture and appliance repair. There are so many times where something has been designed to not be repaired or is so expensive to repair that you might as well buy a new one. Plus, getting parts easily is a pain in the ass. So many times I've been shot down for buying parts since I'm not a contractor and contractors have massive markups, or I have to order the part through some shady website with no confidence that it's the right thing in bag or that it'll arrive anytime soon. I feel like I'm being punished for being capable of replacing the simple part myself. Many fish species have in 30 years gone from being cheap everyday food to become something that's just occasionally served, and often at fine dining restaurants. Atlantic cod is one such fish, just to name one example out of many. Used to be seen as very basic and cheap, but it is now rare and expensive due to overfishing and population collapse. The scary thing is that the vast majority of the world's commercial fishing waters, pretty much regardless of species, are depleting and near collapse. The entire world's oceanic ecosystems are threatened, primarily due to overfishing. Might be random, but I used to love taking long drives for no reason. I would just end up stopping and having lunch and just enjoy the ride. If the weather was beautiful, I roll the windows down and turn up music and just go. I do it especially if stressed. Now it costs me close to $150 to fill my truck when gas was $4.50. Better believe I am not wasting a drop. I ended up buying a 2008 base Honda Fit with no frills, not even keyless locks. It is sick, for God's sakes. But it gets 30 miles per hour even in town. I need my truck to last another 10 years. I think more than anything on this list, privacy. Even 20-30 years ago we had problematic issues with top-level states already engaging in active spying, but now it's so ubiquitous among corporations that people don't even pretend to have an expectation of privacy. The result is the advent of privacy services like Incogni, etc. to actively go out and scrub your data online. Privacy today is now a luxury, a fucking vehicle. They went from relatively safe, efficient, and practical cars in the 90s up to the OOs. Then they started adding a feature here and there and making it harder for the owner to maintain, and now they're bloated and essentially a very restricted gadget on wheels. I'm a fan of electric vehicles, but it's impossible to like a car that feels like a Google project. McDonald's food that isn't absolutely disappointing. McDonald's food that is put together correctly. McDonald's food that is handed over in 5 minutes or less from the time of order like they promised all of us in their ads. All that, and I only dare to even visit MCDs twice a year. Some of those visits have me leaving not having been given the food that I ordered. I don't see camping on here. But camping used to be what people who didn't have enough money for travel out of county or cabins. Now, camping is expensive and all of the sites sell out so quick it's hard to go. It's definitely no longer the cheap vacation. Blue crabs from the Chesapeake Bay. Years ago, crabs were fairly cheap, the kind of thing you buy a bushel of them, steam them up with Old Bay, and bring out the cold beer. Now, a dozen extra large crabs cost you $120. Same with lobsters in New England. Living in a small town. None of my high school classmates who went away to college can live in our hometown or the rural area because there are no jobs for us there or the technology to support WFH. My folks still have dial-up as their only option. Film cameras. I work at a camera store and we have more people than ever coming and looking for film cameras. Even used ones. If you have an old film camera, check the price online. You'll be amazed what some of these are going for. Not requiring your own central banks to buy the government bonds, because you're fine to have them purchased by existing dollars, and the interest rates discovered by the market process will be what they'll be. Pre-black plastic stereo equipment. Vintage receivers, tape decks, even mid-fi turntables were once common and affordable via thrift stores and garage sales. Stuff is rare to find at a deal. Comprehensive compensation packages at work. Thanks to conservative support of corporate greed, we'll never see pensions, raises, benefits and time off like there used to be. In my area, skirt steak. Up until 1999 or so it cost 25 cents a pound, no joke, and my family lived on that stuff. It was a staple. Crazy how high the dollar flew back then. Inexpensive, developed to hot springs. Now these places are all trying to be upscale spas. I just wanna soak in some hot water without paying $300 per night. Adorable housing. My parents had a business in the mid-80s 90s that wasn't doing that well. We still never had to worry about not being able to pay rent. Muscle cars, at this point cars from the 60s, and 70s, that were definitely more commonplace on the road previously 20-30 years ago. now aren't being completely offline. People actually pay huge bucks now just to be away from the internet, social media and etc. Nature spas, resorts etc. Drinking water. And safe to drink out of tap. Used to be free. Now it is packaged. And needs expensive purifiers. Ps. Am not in the US. Wired headphones. Used to mainly be used with phones and MP3 player, but nowadays it's either for video games or high-end audio equipment. Concert tickets. Back in the 80s-90s you could go to a concert every week if you wanted. I saw so many great bands for $25 bucks a pop. Airplane seats that fit a normal human being. Although TBH it's pushing 30 years. Owning a nice home on a single middle-class income. I remember in the mid-2000s you'd get a legit meal in airplanes, not in first class. Like cheeseburgers and shit, and it was good. Here in the UK a fish and chip supper after a few pints was quite normal to have. Now it often costs more than the night out. Owning anything in the stuff I own I can't fix because the device is designed in such a way to not be easy to fix. Some would say owning a new car, not even necessarily one from a higher end brand, as opposed to buying a used one. Good barbecue. Used to be cheap, not so easy to find, and amazing. Now it's ridiculously priced yet far more ubiquitous. Skiing. Used to be very cheap, or at least reasonable priced. It's a rich people's sport now. I live in the Alps. Conversely, some things that were luxuries are now commonplace. Mobile phones and big screen TVs, for example. Annual vacations was commonplace once. 100 of the people I know took vacations. Now it's more like 25. Paid vacation, or jobs with a pension. Anything relating to the middle class not to be enslaved is gone. Lobster used to be considered garbage food and fed only to prisoners. My, how times have changed. Tacos, they're way too expensive for what they are. Delicious yes, convenient yes, $15 for 3 GT though. Buying a game, and that meant having a complete game, not an alpha pre-release garbage. Actually owning anything. Everything now is subscription based or packed full of ads. Well made, heirloom furniture or cabinetry that isn't shallow looking at you. IKEA. Privacy. Ability to become inaccessible for some time without anyone bothering you. Anakin used to be 4 for $8.99 before kids start abusing them. Now $5 a can. Live baseball, basketball, and hockey on OTA TV. Almost all of it is on cable now. 100 years ago, owning a horse was nearly a necessity. Now it's an expensive hobby. In the US, safe drinking water was a lot more common than it seems to be now. Having a decent life, raising a family on one income, going on a vacation, owning a home with your first job on a single income out of high school. Chicken wings for cheap, 10-15 cents nights are a thing of the past. 100 cotton khakis that aren't $200. Everything has the last name now. Free bread and butter at restaurants before you order your meals. Gestures at every aspect of adult life except for cell phones. That magic sound of 56K dial-up. Only the fax gets that love now. Being able to buy a stick-shift car, truck, or SUV in America. Medicine cabinets in new homes. They just put a mirror up now. Good hand-tossed pizza. It's really hard to find around here. Barbecue and certain cuts of meat that used to be cheap and trash. Buying a home. Buying video games that come fully finished. Affordable healthcare plans that pay for the whole services. Going to the pub regularly. The prices are ridiculous now. Play high school sports. Driver's training in school. High quality of anything. Or even just decent quality. Renting an entire house just for yourself to live in. Low-grade cuts of meat. Chicken wings. Brisket. Flank. Single-income households where they own the house,